So let me begin this asking two questions, right? So how many of you have worked with data platforms or data warehouses or maybe dashboards? Can you please raise your hands? Awesome. Now, how many of you think that the insights that you are getting from data is slower than what it should be? All right? Can anyone raise hands? Like, awesome. So today I'm going to share my thoughts, uh, not specific to any newer advancements in AI models, but uh, what I would say is why decisions are getting delayed for larger enterprises or actionable intelligence, why it breaks for larger enterprises when they have got the best of tools. So this is where Dview comes in with agentic lakehouse for enterprises. That's quite a complicated word, but let me sort of simplify this for you. With AI, there are multiple use cases around AI that can be conceptualized today. That's not a hard problem to have. But when it comes to making AI work for enterprises, that's where most enterprise leaders struggle. And this is where the lakehouse comes as something which is a memory of data, which stores huge amount of data. And the agentic spins, basically the contextual understanding, the semantic relationships, ensuring the hierarchy of the data, and feeding it to the AI along with the memory, which is basically the lakehouse, and making it work for larger enterprises. And that's why we are having this state-of-art agentic lakehouse for enterprises, which understands data and its context, the meaning around it, and make it a lot more usable for the enterprise business users. So last year, we made about 9,000 calls, 50,000 kilometers we ran across India, just within India, attending different CXO events. And we are talking to 75 SQLs at this point. We have 25 enterprises wherein we are connected with the CIOs or CDOs or the head of data, right? One common challenge, and these are basically segmented into 5 pillars we often come across. One being siloed data. Imagine you have the data which is stored in different siloed systems which basically don't speak to each other, and therefore it makes the decisions a lot more incomplete and not reliable at all. The data itself is not ready enough. What it means that even though you have a data, you don't have the context around the data, what it means for business. Then you have got large language models. There are thousands of them. In fact, I was told that based on Hugging Face, there were 700K models, AI models, basically out there in the market. So with these many number of models, it creates more hallucinations for the decision makers to put which AI model and make work for it. And without any domain fit, we see the results are inaccurate, are not reliable at all. And then comes the scattered knowledge. This is where most of the enterprises expose them to key people risk because departments, and the different business verticals host the information, which is very specific for the business and for that specific verticals, which is never channelized to other departments and see the whole enterprise, how it is moving in a coherent way. And finally, when it comes to the data security, once you have got the large language models on top of your data, the data security is always on the nerves because you are exposing data and it may be possible that you are exposing the data to someone who is not, who should not be privy to it in the first place. And that's where, we basically try to bring some sense to the madness and chaos that we see in enterprises day in, day out. Well, this slide talks a lot about, the problem statements. We largely cater to BFSIs, the most complex, the most sophisticated, as you see from the outside, but has the most messier data within inside. There are largely 3 areas we come across. The business systems or the banking systems are quite disparate. That means you have a CRM, you have loan origin system, you have loan management systems. You have so many systems out there. Even some of the firms we talk to, they have the source of truth living in Excel, not in databases, or not even in data warehouses, for that matter. This requires a heavy day in, day out efforts going into manual data gathering And we have often seen people plumbing data in Excel files and sharing with them to basically create some dashboards and make sense out of it. Further on, it basically has an impact on the self-service analytics. So as business decision makers, we expect to stay with the market dynamics, and the market changes real time. But when it comes to our day-to-day workflows, we seriously come across so many bottlenecks. One being IT dependencies, second being who understands the data, third being who understands the knowledge. And this is where we get stuck. So imagine something like this. You are trying to fly a plane, but you are reading instruments data from 5 different cockpits. You'd definitely not be able to fly. And that's what happens when you make AI work on such data, right? So in short, we are not seeing, from our point of view, it's not a failure of ambitions that Indian enterprises have. It's a failure of foundations that most enterprises come across. Well, what Dview has to offer? We didn't build any other dashboard tool. We didn't build any other AI chatbots. We didn't build any other web data warehouse even for that matter, right? We built something very interesting. How can we unify all the enterprise knowledge into a common IP, right? Somebody that can be democratized. Not only the data, the knowledge can be democratized across the organization, which basically creates very unique IP for the enterprise. How can we have large language models which understands the domain? We really don't need to have models which is trained on trillion parameters, but instead, a small language model can do the work for you. How can we have agentic AI-based executions of queries? So when you give such a powerful tool in the hands of business decision makers, they will not restrict themselves from looking at the past or the factual data. Instead, they will look for something what is going to happen in the near future, which we call predictions, right? And a simple text to SQL can't do the job. Then you have to go far deeper and basically pull some kind of pandas library and execute the queries. And our agentic AI execution does it on the fly. Further on, if you are really democratizing the data and the intelligence across organizations, you have to be very careful about the kind of stakeholders you are exposing the data. Technically, we call it exposing the data on need to know basis principle. And that's where our policy-aware workflows comes. It not only protects the data, but the intelligence or the insights around the data, which is stored in different data sets. Say, for example, something which goes into the regulatory audits, that data will not be exposed to the operations team. And finally, we need to have something which compounds when you are sleeping. Otherwise, you will not be able to make any difference than anyone else, right? So this is where our large language models, even when you are sleeping and the business is working, it learns from the business dynamics and keeps it up to date as you go along. Right, so what Dview does basically? From a very technical architecture standpoint, right, imagine most of the organizations who are working with data will have Snowflake or Databricks, Fivetran for the pipelines, or maybe a Redshift, something, a data warehouse equivalent, or maybe Tableau, right? We basically integrate with any of these systems. In fact, for that matter, we have got 120 plus integrations across enterprises. You just simply connect to it, onboard a catalog, right? The large language models creates the unified knowledge layer, which is fully automated, right? Because they understand the domain very well, and thereafter it's ready to take off. That's why you fire a query, and on the fly you get the responses. And these responses are not factual. These responses are far more deeper. It has the explainability, it understands the hierarchical structure of the data, the entities within the data, and as well it will tell you what to do next. And that's why we never stop at just giving you factual data, we complete the task for you. From a positioning standpoint, right, we have seen warehouses that speaks of the past, helps you understand, what has happened in the past. They're slowly becoming boring because those are, the kind of repeated or pattern queries that are fired on us, every single day. But when you see there are certain changes in the business dynamics, you definitely want to run a lot of ad hoc queries. You have warehouses and lakehouses which are brilliant in storing data, and there are so many of them which has evolved. And then you have got analytics, very complex analytics tools, which integrates with different workflows, but these are largely centered around team which ranks high on AI and data maturity. But what about the enterprises who do not have that kind of a data readiness, or who do not have that kind of AI readiness at this point, or maybe who do not have that kind of an understanding which large MNCs would have? And that's where Dview come in, and that's the huge, huge market that we are targeting within India and outside, in the US as well. Basically equipping these companies or enterprises with a tool which on the fly gives you insights, easy to plug in with the existing tools, and therefore make this intelligence a lot more actionable than anything else. We have found our product market fit in the BFSI sector. When I say BFSI, it includes fintech, it includes securities broking, to large asset management companies, to banks, to NBFCs within India and outside India. Just some of the names, because of the fact that we have signed few confidentiality agreement. We cannot bring more names here. I wish I could, but the crux of this is very simple. We understand the sector, we understand the context, and therefore it becomes easier for us to work with the AI and make it a lot more impactful for the business decision makers, and when it comes to implementation for that matter. But beyond the fact, when you're working in BFSI, right, there are security guardrails, you have compliance teams, you have audit, you have risk. There's so many things you need to tackle with. And that makes us battle ready. So for any other sector, if we are going tomorrow, we are far better placed than anyone else. All right, I mean, some of the testimonials which we have received from our CTOs, there are many of them, but let me just highlight two of them. The reason being, one in US, India. Yeah, one in the US, India cross-border fintech, ecosystem, another being in India. See, they're not talking about prompts, they're not talking about the accuracy, they're not talking about how beautiful my AI models are and all that. What they're talking about is security, they're talking about scalability, the governance in place, and that is what matters for large enterprises. We have a beautiful team, and this team are all binded to the mission of making enterprise data easily accessible in a governed way to make actionable decisions. And that's where the team comes in, and they have got experience in building and working with messy data time and again for many years now. And most importantly, we are backed by InfoEdge Ventures, Capital 2B. Many of you would know they are, one of the most distinguished VCs within India. But besides the fact, they not only help us grow, we have very good set of advisors who basically help us figure out any blind spots and not die because of any stupid reasons.